Coming up, USC and Juju Watkins are on a roll, continuing their undefeated week with the bout over the Huskies.
Men's basketball continues their up and down season in the competitive Big Ten.
And men's baseball gets off to a hot start this season. Welcome back to Sports Scene. I'm Nolan Ezett.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Chris Jose Nixon.
USC women's basketball took down undefeated and number 1 ranked UCLA on Thursday after an electrifying performance from Juju Watkins. USC moved from the 6th ranked team to the 4th. Watkins dropped 38 points on 12 of 26 shooting, grabbed 11 boards, dished out 5 assists, and blocked 8 shots. She was automatic from 3, knocking down 6 of her 9 deep attempts. This earned her a 5th Big Ten Player of the Week award. No other player in the conference has more than 3. USC struggled whenever Watkins wasn't handling the ball, but the Trojans did have a strong defensive performance. They held the Bruins to 35% shooting from the field and 15% shooting from 3. USC also beat Washington on the road Sunday. In a stronger team effort, Iriafin led the Trojans with 19 points and shot 8 for 16 from the field. Watkins had 17 and Kennedy Smith put up 14. It was another impressive defensive outing, holding the Huskies to 39% shooting from the field. Numbers-wise, USC's game against UCLA may be its best of the season, making 8 threes and 21 free throws, getting 9 steals, and blocking 13 shots. But half of these numbers came from Juju Watkins. The numbers recorded against Washington are more down to earth, but they did come from more teammates. Now, a couple weeks away from the tournament, there's a lot more to like than to dislike about this squad. But Liam and Chris, I want to ask you guys, let's dive a little deeper into this. What's something that we need to see change about this squad heading into March?
Yeah, I think first, before we get into the problems, a lot of positives for this team, right? Juju Watkins with a stellar performance at the Galen Center and probably the biggest win in a decade for the USC Trojans. But I think it comes down to the simple things, rebounding and turnovers. We've harped on this a couple times when talking about USC women's basketball, but a concern, they were out-rebounded versus Washington in that game, and I think a game that kind of snuck up on them a little bit. You look at the schedule, you circle that UCLA game. Right after that, you're not thinking about the Washington Huskies, and it was a lot closer than expected, 33-37 in the rebound game. They have to box out 1 through 5. Iriafin cannot be someone who gets 20 rebounds a game, especially when you look forward to March Madness.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a classic trap game. It's good on them that they were able to get the job done late in that game. One thing I look at, though, in these last couple games is that when Juju is not in single coverage like she was against UCLA, somebody else has to get going a little earlier than they did against Washington. You know, eventually the shots started falling and they started scoring some points, but we got to make sure that this isn't a one-player team in March, because that is not going to fly.
Look, like you guys said, this team is great. The biggest concern to me, though, is the depth or lack thereof of this squad. I think 2 of the best games this season from the Trojans were beating, obviously, number 1 UCLA, but also just a week prior, number 8 Ohio State. In each of those 2 games, the Trojans had 2 players off the bench score even a single point. That's a concern to me. You get deeper into March in the Elite 8, Final 4, even the championship. God willing, you know, this USC squad's got to have more guys to fill in for Juju Watkins when she eventually needs to take some rest.
Right, and building off that point, I think 2 of the key players in that conversation are going to be Kennedy Smith, who's a starter, and Avery Howell off the bench. And that's because those are the 2 leading 3-point shooters besides Juju on the team. I mean, Kennedy Smith this year knocking down 34%, 4.6 attempts a game. Avery Howell, she's knocking down 38.5%, 3.8 attempts per game. They're going to need that spacing to make everything easier on all the other players, because, you know, we got a lot of players that like to get into the paint, get to the mid-range jumpers. So
they'll definitely need her in March. They'll also need her even just in this next week. USC has 3 games left, and they're all ranked opponents. The Trojans face number 22 Michigan State today at 6:30 p.m., followed by number 25 Illinois, and an exciting little rematch against now number 3 ranked UCLA on the road.
So next on the schedule is number 22 Michigan State. Let's meet the opponent. The Spartans sit in 6th place in the Big Ten with signature wins over number 25 Illinois and a 30-point blowout of rival Michigan. Michigan State likes to create turnovers and run in the fast break. They rank 8th in the country in steals with 12.9 a game. Their offense is at its best when they share the ball, though. The Spartans average 18.9 assists per contest, 9th most in the nation. Number 22 Michigan State is 19-6, 9-5 in the Big Ten. A few big games against ranked opponents where they've fared, they've had some ups and some downs in those matchups. But the 3 ranked matchups to end the season for USC, starting tonight against MSU. We'll start with you, Liam. What is it going to take to defeat the Spartans?
I think we harped on it in our prior conversation, but it's the bench depth. You got to talk about in that Huskies game, combined 10 points from Howell, Olhoffen, and Heckel. Those are numbers that need to improve. Look, Juju Watkins is going to get hers either way. Iria Fenn is going to get hers either way as well. Double digits in every single game so far for Watkins. But it comes down to the depth. It comes down to bench depth, scoring off the bench, and not being afraid to let it fly. That's worked well for the Trojans this season.
I disagree. I don't think the depth is the issue in this game. I think USC is clearly the better team. I think depth really comes to play when you've got a worse squad and you need to have some time where it's your bench versus their bench. You've got the stronger bench. That's when it matters. Michigan State isn't better than USC. I think what matters right now is that USC takes care of Michigan State's top scorer, and that's Julia Aroll. She is a guard. She's a taller guard, and she can get 7.5 rebounds a game while shooting 35% from beyond the arc. That, to me, is a strong player. That sounds like a Juju Watkins matchup right there. I hope Juju Watkins can do something like she did against UCLA with 8 blocks. I think that's what it's going to take, though. You got to stop her.
So let me pose a situation. USC 20-0 so far when scoring 70 points. Are you expecting the starters to tally up 70 points in this game, or is it more of just, you trust in your starters and let the bench people get some work when needed off the bench?
I trust in the Trojan squad and when it comes to the starters against Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State threatens the USC Trojans too much. I think where they threaten is when it comes to a solid guard who isn't as good as Juju Watkins per se, but still 7.5 rebounds, 35% from 3. That's a player that can threaten you at any side of the court. That, to me, is what's concerning. I don't see the Trojans struggling to put up 70 or more points against this. I don't want to call them mediocre, but compared to the Trojans, they've got their holes.
And when you talk about the 70 points, MSU has led up 70 points in their last 4 straight matchups in the Big Ten. I don't think this is an elite defense that's going to be able to cause too many problems for the Trojans. So I think the key for them is just to limit the turnovers and make sure they're forcing turnovers against Michigan State. They do a good job of taking care of the basketball, so the more turnovers they can force, the better they will fare in this matchup. But will the Spartans bounce back from their UCLA loss, or can the Trojans keep their momentum going? Tonight will set the tone for the home stretch of the Trojans season. For more of what's going on in Big Ten basketball, Casey is at the monitor with your Big Ten breakdown.
Thank you, Chris. USC men's basketball is in a bit of a Big Ten rough patch. The Trojans have now lost 3 of their last 4 following a heartbreaking finish to Lucai-Patterson and Minnesota. USC managed to contain top player Dawson Garcia and led by as many as 14 points, but fell apart late. An inadvertent whistle with under a full shot clock remaining indirectly caused the Trojans, who led by 1 at the time, to turn the ball over and allow the Gophers to pull away with free throws, winning 69-66. While the call was controversial, one would be wrong to say it was the only reason for the Trojan loss, as USC turned the ball over 14 times and was out-rebounded by 7 on the offensive glass. Chibuzo Abo tallied his 4th double-digit scoring day in the last 5 games, a silver lining in an otherwise turbulent stretch for USC. With 6 games left before the postseason, USC's East Coast trip starts with the number 20 Maryland Terrapins. The Terps are one of the most dominant teams in the Big Ten, with an average scoring margin of over 16 points and a platoon of scoring options in their starting 5. Maryland boasts one of the top starting lineups in the country. Their beginning 5 combined for an average of almost 70 points per game, and while their bench is one of the worst in the conference, it hasn't seemed to faze them. On a 3-game heater, the Terps scored triple digits last time out against Iowa. Unsurprisingly, USC head coach Eric Musselman wasn't content with how the last game ended. The first-year Trojan gaffer spoke post-game about the road ahead.
I felt, making the Big Ten tournament before we played a game. You look at the teams in the league and the programs in the league, and I told the staff at the beginning of the year that, that I thought making the Big Ten tournament was something that one, we don't want to be left out of it. That's now in jeopardy, obviously.
So there's 6 games left on the schedule. Chris, we'll start with you. Where do the Trojans go from here at this point?
Yeah, the Trojans, they've got a tough road ahead of them if they want to make the tournament. It's going to take a surprising run really in the Big Ten tournament if they want to get into March. But there's some things they can do to fix that. They need to be a little bit more disruptive on the defensive end, I think. You have a few games in here where they're not forcing enough turnovers. They're letting teams get into their offense too easily, and I think that's the main key they should focus on. But really, it's about looking forward. Can you develop? Can you keep guys around? Looking forward into the next few seasons. But.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, Chris. I think this season is unfortunately over. 6 games left. You got a tough Maryland team tonight. Derek Queen's a top 10 pick. I don't think there's any stopping the Terrapins tonight for USC. However, looking forward, you got to keep the guys who you have on your roster. Wesley Yates is a huge key for the Trojans to keep in this offseason. He's buddies with Elijah Arenas, top recruit coming in. But, those are guys you got to keep around. This is an old squad, 10 seniors on the squad who will all be gone next year. So this was kind of a mismatched group for Eric Musselman this year. You got to credit his coaching staff and ability to put some wins on the column. But overall, you got to look forward to next year. Got to look forward to keeping your players and hitting the portal very heavy.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're way too optimistic. I agree with Liam. This season's over. You're a 14-win team right now. You got 6 games left. Realistically, if you want any shot, you got to win out. The Trojans aren't winning out. They're 2-3 in February. You can't be under 500 the month before the tournament. If the Trojans want to be in that first 4 out category, which is already, pretty bleak if that's what the Trojans are going for, you probably got to win 4 or 5 of the remaining games. And I think what I've seen from the Trojans is they've been able to score this month. In their last 10 games, they're only 5-5, but they've been scoring 77, 78 points a game. They've been giving up the same number, though. This defense has got to improve, and just all-around perimeter defense, inside defense, you got to see more physicality from the Trojans, and we haven't seen that so far.
Yeah, I like your points, and also consistency. I talked about Chibuzo Abo. He's been great lately, but prior to that, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Let's be real. He was super inconsistent. Been plenty of guys on this team, even Desmond Claude in certain games, where he goes for 20 and then 2 points the next game. So I think, like you said, consistency, and I think they'll get that over time with the chemistry. But it's undeniably been a rough season for USC, but the future certainly looks bright under Eric Musselman's watch.
Let's talk about some other bright futures. USC Beach is headed to Hawaii. The 4-time national champs are starting their quest for a 5th title, and they have some big opponents on the schedule. And USC baseball is off to a hot start this season. We break down what to expect for the rest of the year.
Fushigi!
Fushigi, I don't know what it is, but it's the coolest thing ever, and I can do it.
Hi, I'm Tim Goey, and this is Fushigi. We're going to show you how to unlock the secrets of Fushigi, the magic gravity ball. No strings, no tricks. Magic? Maybe. An illusion? You decide. You can make Fushigi defy gravity and appear to float in midair with maneuvers like the prayer cross, the enigma, levitation, and so many more. It floats, it levitates, it will confuse the senses with its mind-blowing movements. Young or old, big or small, anyone can Fushigi from the minute they pick up the magic gravity ball. And with a little practice, you can conquer Fushigi.
This is so amazing.
I think it's fabulous.
I get it now.
Everyone loves Fushigi, and you don't have to be a magician. It's relaxing, even therapeutic. Best of all, it's just amazing.
It floats.
It's awesome. Fushigi.
From basic maneuvers to the advanced, even control more than one Fushigi at a time. You can do this. Mystify, amaze, and confuse your friends in just minutes. Now it's your turn to master Fushigi.
Fushigi.
It's sick. It's so much fun. I love it.
It's amazing.
I love it.
Me too.
My grandson, he's 16, he would love one of those. I want to buy it now.
Fushigi. Call now to order Fushigi.
The Trojans are off to a perfect start. USC baseball sweeps their opening weekend series over George Washington in dominant fashion, going 3-0. From Great Park, the Bats came out hot on a 15-2 win on Friday. Ethan Hedges with a bases-clearing double. He finished the weekend 6 for 13 with 5 RBIs and 5 runs scored. And then you got Braden Dowd, a trusted returner for the Trojans, blasting one to deep right field to edge the Colonials in the bottom of the 6th inning. Trojans outscored George Washington 31-15 in the series sweep. The Bats stayed hot on Tuesday night with a grand entrance from guess who? Ethan Hedges, who built off his hot weekend with a grand slam in the top of the 6th inning. And Grant Govell, well, that's 5 innings hitless and 6 strikeouts out of the bullpen. Trojans remain undefeated with a 5-2 win over Irvine. On the horizon, the midweek matchups continue for the Trojans as they take on CSU Bakersfield tonight. The Roadrunners have gotten off to a slow start with a 1-2 record after a weekend series with Lamar University, but boast 2 guys with above 440 batting averages, catcher Nick Mascaro and Brock Perriera. Undefeated Trojans back under the lights tonight, searching to remain undefeated in the 2025 campaign. Game time at 6 p.m.
USC's swim and dive teams are getting ready to compete in their first ever Big Ten championships. The women's tournament starts today, while the men's team swims next week. USC's men rank 16th in the country with a 3-2 record. They're coming off of 2 Big Ten Weekly Awards, with Luke Moore winning Swimmer of the Week and freshman Junhao Chan coming home with the Newcomer of the Week award. The 12th ranked USC women's team is also 3-2. They've set 1 record and 15 personal bests on the season. Caitlin Dobler, the USC record holder in the 100 breaststroke, is the top seed in both that event and the 200 breaststroke for the tournament. There are 2 relays this afternoon as competition gets started, but the women of Troy will have to compete against 6 other top 25 swim programs in this year's championships.
Now, one of USC's most decorated sports is back on the sands. Scott Hills is live to tell us more about it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the 4-time reigning national champion beach volleyball team, that's right, 4 in a row, is slated to open its season in tournament play in Honolulu this weekend. Last season, the Trojans beat UCLA in the NCAA championship match in May in a 3-0 dominating fashion. USC had a 37-5 record in their final season in the Pac-12, including a 30-5 record against ranked teams. The Trojans will join the MPSF conference this year. USC enters the season at number 1 in the ABCA preseason poll, followed by TCU in second, and 2024 NCAA runner-up UCLA rounding out the top 3. All 6 of the Women of Troy's opponents in Honolulu this weekend will be ranked. Well, USC is going to look to turn to a lot of their younger talent this year after losing 4 pillars of success from that 4-peat national championship run in the last 4 years. But guys, do you think USC has what it takes to set them up for contention for a 5-peat this year?
Well, short answer, yes, I do. I mean, it starts with the coach, Dane Blanton. Under him, they are 142-20, ranked number 1 again this season. I see no reason why they can't get the job done. They're going to be battle-tested as well. 6 top 15 opponents in the first 3 games this season. I think they're going to develop that chemistry. They're going to be ready to go.
I think it's hard to sit here with a straight face and say that the number 1 ranked team, 4-peat in a row, going for their 5th peat, couldn't be a national championship contenders. But I'll tell you one reason why they might not be, and that's their inexperience. 11 graduating seniors this year, 2 grad students on the roster, and no seniors whatsoever. So that means freshmen, sophomores, got to step up for this USC Trojans team. The question will be, can they do it?
I think you put what both of you guys, said together. A lot of graduating seniors, but also amazing coaching. Comes down to coaching then. You got new players, you got young players with, little to no tournament experience. Can coaching make up for it? But again, as you said, you can't sit here with a team that won 4 straight and is now still ranked the number 1 team and say they don't have a shot. But I think Honolulu will really be the battle test for them. We'll get to see what this team is all about. Scott, what about you though? What do you think?
Yeah, well, Liam and Nolan, you both mentioned how this is a young team. I think they're going to look to players like Ashley Pater to produce here early in the season. We saw her get really comfortable in that number 4 position last year. They're going to want to play her in some higher sets this season. She was all Pac-12 freshman team last year. She's going to be a huge part of the team this year. You've also got Madison White, a really talented junior. She's played in various duos. Sophomore Madison Goldner, junior Maven Thomas. These are all players that were a part of that championship winning team last year. If you can get them to produce early, get some experience right off the bat, they should put themselves in a good position come May. We'll get a better taste for how their season's going to go once they get into competition tomorrow afternoon and into this weekend. But for now, we'll set it back to Studio C for more on USC women's lacrosse season so far.
Women's lacrosse swept its schedule last weekend, taking down Cal on the road 17-6 and number 21 Colorado 15-6 at home. The victories pushed the Trojans into the rankings, and they're now number 25 in the nation. Senior Maddie Dorr was named Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week after posting 11 goals over the weekend. Sophomore Annie Shields earned Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week from posting 19 saves and allowing 12 goals through the 2 matches. The 2-1 Trojans prepare to play UC Davis at Dignity Health Sports Park on Friday.
And the Trojans are teeing up to success. USC women's golf just drove home a stellar week on the course. In Palm Desert, the Trojans saved their best for last as they posted 7 under par in the final round to complete its tournament score at 11 under par. The women of Troy placed 4 players within the top 20 and counted below 72 for all scores on the final day. Catherine Park earned her 5th top 10 performance of the season and her 3rd runner-up finish. The junior had the highlight of her 3rd round at the end with 3 birdies and 4 holes and an eagle on hole 18 to finish her day. USC women's golf stayed cool under pressure with 2 underclassmen, freshman Jasmine Koo and sophomore Bailey Shoemaker, finishing 6th and 11th respectively on the weekend. Koo capped her weekend 3 under par, and Shoemaker was right behind her with 1 over. USC will return to the course for the Julie Inkster at Meadow Club Invitational on Monday, March 3rd in Fairfax, California. Well, let's get ready for another beatdown. Thomas, I'm excited to see you secure another victory over Terrence in Trojan of the Week.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Lim. It really means a lot. It seems I've already been declared the winner, Terrence, but you know what? We can still argue it out just for fun. This week, I'm heading out of the pool to the baseball diamond with USC's Ethan Hedges. The junior was a one-man wrecking crew for the Trojans as part of a 4-win week, including a sweep over George Washington and a midweek victory over UC Irvine. Hedges hit a go-ahead grand slam against the Anteaters yesterday, notching 2 homers, 9 RBI, 7 total hits, and a boot, secured 2 saves on the mound for the Trojans this past week.
Well, as much as an unfair introduction that was, for the second week in a row, I'm going for a swim at Utangsu Aquatic Center for my Trojan of the Week, Ava Stryker of women's water polo. Stryker was crucial on both sides of the pool in the victory against Long Beach State, racking up a team-high 5 points as well as 2 total steals on the defensive side, helping secure a top 10 win for USC.
Well, Terrence, I want to hear from you first today.
Oh, you're good. I'm glad to hear it. I think we don't get that a lot. You know, Thomas, I think Stryker was the Trojan of the Week simply because she played against a better team. She was the best player on her team. If you compare the competition, you look at George Washington, UC Irvine, it's nothing compared to a top 10 ranked UC Irvine.
Okay, but let's talk about this, Terrence, because USC is #1 in the country. Do you want to know the series history against Long Beach State for USC?
I don't care about the series history.
The Trojans are 42-0.
Oh, that's
they haven't lost a single time.
I think that speaks really to Ava Stryker's impressive win. Yeah,
they're
exactly.
42-0.
That doesn't matter about the past. We're talking about this week.
Irvine, an NCAA regional team last year. USC overall.
No, I don't care about last year. I don't care about years in the past.
Is 37-40.
Don't you dare push me. Don't you push
Irvine
me.
has a ranked win this year, and USC is 37-40 overall. So that's a more impressive win. The Anteaters have been better in the history.
Can we talk about singular players? You're talking about team.
Okay, let's talk about singular players because Ethan Hedges this past week led the team in runs, led the team in extra base hits, led the team in RBI, led the team in total bases, led the team in slugging, and guess what? Look at him on the mound right there. He earned 2 saves. He is one of 2 pitchers with 2+ innings and no earned runs. You want to talk about individual performances?
He was all right.
He hit a go-ahead grand slam against a...
But what about those other at-bats? He swung and missed on his first at-bat, swung and missed on his second, then popped up on his fourth.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
He had that other decent hit in that in the 6th inning.
He had 7 hits. That's second on the team.
But against UC Irvine, he had 1 decent hit. I think we need to look at the rest of the game and how he played.
Terrence,
it
was a go-ahead grand slam.
Yeah, but the rest really wasn't helping. 3 outs though. Really, so if he almost cancels it out, really it was
4 RBI.
Really,
he won the game.
Pretty much only 1 loss, 1 run.
Terrence, you're grasping
at straws. If you cancel out,
you're grasping at straws.
Not at all. I just think if you look at Stryker, and she had an overall better performance on the best team USC has right now, in my opinion. Well, I think that's not debatable.
So you're talking about
the best player, the best team. That's all you have to say.
Her goals didn't matter that much. You take out her 4 goals, USC still wins.
I'm just saying she did on both sides of the ball. And sadly, I'd love to debate this more. I really would. And well, Thomas, I wish we had more time, but I think if I went any longer, it would be considered elder abuse.
I'm 1 year older than you.
Well, coming up, Daniel will tell you all about the NBA's disastrous All-Star Weekend. And KZ has his wish of talking puck with a breakdown of the Four Nations tournament.
I've replaced your shoelaces with fruit by the foot.
So you did. I replaced your fingers with fruit by the foot.
Bravo. I replaced your bones with fruit by the foot.
Indeed you have. I replaced your guitar strings with fruit by the foot.
Seems like a step backwards, but alright. I replaced your DNA with fruit by the foot. That would be end of game, my friend.
Fruit by the foot. Fruit-flavored snack.
Are you guilty of driving while talking on your cell phone?
Hi, Billy Mays here for the Jupiter Jack. The most convenient hands-free device for any cell phone, guaranteed. Plug it into any phone and mount it on the dash. Preset your radio to 99.3 FM and you're ready to go. Jupiter Jack transmits quality sound through the speakers in your car. Instead of hearing music, you hear the other person. No plugs, no wires, no hands. Call now and get the Jupiter Jack for just $40. Order right now and we'll cut the price in half. You'll get the Jupiter Jack for only $19.99. As a bonus, we'll also include the Jupiter Jack phone mount. It mounts easily and adjusts to fit any shape or size phone. Just pay separate shipping and handling. That means you get the Jupiter Jack and the phone mount, a huge value, all for just $19.99.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-346-5231. But call now. We're giving away a bonus dashboard mount with all of today's orders. So call 1-800-346-5231. Call now.
There were NBA All-Star festivities this weekend up in the Bay Area, but not everyone was happy with how things went. So let's go to Daniel Palmer in Studio A, who did watch, to break down what happened this All-Star weekend.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the NBA All-Star Game was in the Bay Area this weekend, and it's supposed to be one of the most exciting times of the year for basketball fans, but that certainly wasn't the case over the weekend. In the new format, 3 teams made up of 24 All-Stars and 1 consisting of rising stars competed in a tournament with 2 semifinals matchups and 1 finals game. The games were untimed, and the winner was determined by the first team to score 40 or more points. All-Star Saturday night was headlined by Orlando's Mac McClung winning his 3rd dunk contest in a row. Heat guard Tyler Hero won the 3-point contest, and the Cavs duo of Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley took home the skills challenge. And in the actual game, Shaquille O'Neal's OGs ended up taking home the title as Stephen Curry scored 12 of their 41 points to secure the victory over Charles Barkley's Global Stars. The performance won Curry his 2nd career All-Star Game MVP award. And next year, maybe the game will be a little bit better as the game heads back to Los Angeles for the first time since 2018, as the game will take place at the Intuit Dome.
Well, in the NHL, the league said instead of an all-star game, forget it, we're going to do a tournament. And the NHL banded together 4 of the best hockey nations in the world, the United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland, for a tournament in a round-robin style affair. And the United States leads the group, Canada in 2nd, so those 2 teams will play each other in the finals. That will be tomorrow, and it features the best of the best. It's the first best-on-best hockey tournament since the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. The Americans are led by elite goaltender Connor Hellebuyck and won their first 2 games to secure the top spot. Breakout defenseman Zach Werenski co-leads the tournament in points and as well represented the heartbeat of Team USA. Play physical and cerebral, get rewarded. Strategically, the red, white, and blue rested many of their starters Monday against Sweden. Canada, on the other hand, enters Thursday as underdogs. The men in red lost to the States on Saturday in a chippy bout, scoring first on Hellebuyck, but faltering the rest of the way. The Americans scored a few goals that the Canadians would have liked to have back, as Jordan Binnington was rocked as the game went on. So, Daniel, of course, both these are different tournaments, but leagues that kind of have a similar calendar. What kind of went wrong in the NBA this year?
I think the NBA tried to do too much with the All-Star Game this year. The tournaments, it was kind of confusing, the formatting, and then you had rising stars competing in All-Star Weekend, and you saw players take issue with that. Draymond Green in particular was like, guys who are not playing as well as All-Stars shouldn't be playing on All-Star Weekend because of how much of a privilege it is. So I think the NBA kind of overcomplicated it when it came to trying to change the format.
Yeah, I feel like just in the NBA, the guys aren't always fully bought in. And I know that obviously tournaments have sort of taken over the NBA. You have the in-season tournament, you have the play-in tournament, obviously on the All-Star Game. Whereas the NHL, it's a little bit different. And then you have guys really bought in, really proud to wear that crest, that USA crest Canada goes on. And it just feels like there's so much more, especially with these countries kind of having rivalries.
For sure. And I think what the NBA should do, in my opinion, I think they should go back to the draft format, because we saw the 2 most recent successful All-Star games were the 2018 one in LA when they introduced the draft, and then the 2020 game when they also had a draft and they changed the format where they had the untimed 4th quarter when guys were playing for charities. Those 2 games really stick out to me in terms of really competitive play between both of the teams. And so I think that's something the NBA should consider going forward for future All-Star games.
Yeah, because it felt like, obviously 30 years ago in sort of the golden era of the NBA, the guys were really bought in. The sort of aura and aesthetic of it, guys wearing their own jerseys,
for sure,
really matched sort of the NBA and its identity at the time. But it just feels like that's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what will happen next year for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll throw it back to you guys in the studio to take us away. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. That's all it for Sports Scene this week. Come back next week, same time, same place. I'm Nolan Ezert.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Christian Jose Nixon. We'll see you next week.